Hello, beautiful people. So, Maria and I are devising ideas for our group coaching program. Stay tuned for it. And we just want to briefly touch upon something that we're getting a little downloaded on. It's about the
Yes.
Matrix. And
Yes.
because the Matrix is really just an interweb of consciousness. And I think we have contorted the word and put energy, fear-based energy around the word. And so, Miss Maria, share your insights you were just getting. That's why I had to hit record.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yes. See how things just spontaneously happen here where, as Sam was saying, co-creating this beautiful coaching program that we're going to start in the fall. And we're just coming up with like names and how we're going to market it. We started talking about just the word matrix, right? Everybody knows the movie The Matrix, and I feel like more and more people are throwing the word matrix around because more of us are quote unquote waking up, remembering. And as Sam said, literally a matrix is just it's a web. It's a connected web of consciousness, of energy. And how I just was getting it downloaded is that when we're throwing that, oh, escaping the matrix, breaking free of the matrix, it's like I've been shown that all these other higher dimensions outside of the 3D also have matrices. I've like literally seen these webs of energy, of light. And so 3D matrix, I think, is what most people are referring to when we're throwing this word around, like breaking free of it. It's just the energetic web that holds people in that dimension, which is just consciousness, which is all fear based. That 3D is fear based and very unconscious to the fear. 4D also has its own matrix, and in the 4D, fourth dimension, or state of consciousness, because that's all dimensions really are, states of consciousness. In the 4D, there's still a lot of fear, but there's also more awareness to what is going on externally in the world, and also a lot of introspection that we do in that fourth dimension. Meaning we go in, we start doing that shadow work, we start falling down rabbit holes of internal things and external realities, right? So there's much more awareness coming alive in 4D than versus 3D. Just think of 3D as like very unconscious, very asleep in a sense, asleep to the fact that fear is controlling us. 4D, we start becoming aware of like, whoa, there is a lot of fear on this earth plane, right? And I'm now starting to become aware of where I play in it, but I'm also having more awareness of how much of it. So I'm also kind of still getting stuck in my own fears, right? Because it's like now the fear that's always been here in 3D is magnified because our awareness has expanded in 4D.
Yeah.
Then you move up into 5D, and we'll just say beyond. All of those dimensions, consciousnesses, all have energetic webs or matrices that hold it together. So 5D, from how I experience it when I connect with it, there's no fear anymore, right? It's literally that vibration of love. I do feel there is still aspects of like physical physicality in it. I do feel that there is physicality still in 5D. I feel like as we ascend beyond that, there's less physical, and it's strictly like these energetic interactions that are still felt, but it's just very different than like the physicality, the physical world. I feel like 5D is almost like it's that bridge between physical and the true, like, and really just energy kind of thing. I feel like 5D, again, you can be in a physical form, but then you can also um manifest into something else like really quickly, like that 5D sort of matrix. But I feel like we're talking about this because there's a mindset around what is the matrix, and as we're ascending, we're supposed to break free of the matrix. Well, every dimension has its own matrix. It's literally just an energy web of connections. It's literally how I'm seeing it right now. And as you ascend up in vibration of energy, it looks different, but it's still there's still matrices in all the dimensions. It's wild.
It is wild. And like while you're talking, I'm seeing like, because when you first started, before you went from 3D to 4D, right? Because you're in that fear, and then you're like awakening. You're remembering, like, oh, there's more to life. Like, oh, my life's been freaking raveled. Like, there must be something going on. Must be more, right? What we call the dark night of the soul, or like whatever. But I was literally seeing like look like a spider, but it was like little human, right? Looking down and like being pulled out of one box, one dimension, like one graph paper, right? Like pulled up and to look, have a big view, like perspective open, right? Third eye, like, whoa. And then you can choose, okay, what within this graph paper as I'm looking down on it, like, do I really not want to pay attention to anymore? Like, doesn't need my energy, right? So I can then come up to this other vibration, right? This other matrix, this other dimensions, 4D dimension, and continue to work on the things that I that are serving me, right? Like what are some beliefs I have that no longer do I need, but like why do they have a hold on me, right? So I can release those. And then I was shown a spider sitting in the middle of its web, right? And then you have all of the however many lines around the web. And the spider is like in the middle and it's just like looking out. And I was like, yeah, these are all me. Like I made each one of these webs, these little whatever silk, right? To make this. And this belief's in here. This story's here. And I have this, and this is here. But I'm just in the middle. I'm one with it all. Like, so I choose my reality. Like I am the creator being, right? So when you're talking about it, that's why we started this because Maria was like, people are really stuck right now between like this 3D, 4D, but more so in the 4D because we're all like, we want this new earth. We just want
Mhm.
life to be back to normal and be happy. It's like when it's never going back to normal because
And
we don't
what
know
is
what normal
normal?
is. Right. We don't know what normal is. So, like, how can we all be our own little spider and see everything in our life as it is and then choose what we give our attention to, right? Choose what our fears are now. Like, and something that came up in a session prior today was everyone is upheaval about the government, right? About the different presidents, about all of that. If you listen to Maria and I, you know, we don't care about politics. Like it's just one of those webs we don't care to participate in. So, what was getting downloaded to me was if every single person just looked at themselves as a president, right, in their own world, and looked at all of their beliefs, their stories, and their parts as different systems that they govern, they would then be able to fix their different systems so they can like not govern with the whole, but they can stand whole and respected because they've looked at their little systems like they are their own president. And I was telling the person, he's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, but there's something we're not seeing here if it's coming in again, right? Like there's something we're not
Yeah.
fully seeing
Yeah.
because we're all beginning to look within, but we're still angry at things out there. We're still afraid about things out there. So it's like when I got that download, I'm like, okay, so what do I need to govern within me
Mm.
to make my web around me more peaceful, more sustainable, right? Like what am I still not seeing? Um, it's just interesting because we all look around at everything else to decide our world. And it's like, no, it's right here. It's right here.
Right. Right. That's why I feel like that is such an awesome download that you got. It's such a cool analogy because it is. It's like even how he was saying, yeah, I know. Like we know that, but it's just another way of like really, whoa, like wow, it is all an inside job. Like we talk about that all the time, but like you're saying, there's still aspects of us that are still focused on the system and how we're getting fucked by it.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of anger about it, right? So if there's still anger about it, there's still unresolved energy inside, right? I feel like a lot of us are bouncing back and forth from 3, 4, 5D, right? I know I'm myself, I am not necessarily 3D anymore, but more of a 4, 5. And I feel like that's where I see a lot of people is in this 4, 5, up and down, back and forth. Because again, in 4, at least how I'm seeing it and have experienced it, you are doing inner work, like you are going internally and starting to like oh, whoa, there's like a lot I haven't seen and felt and acknowledged, right? So there is that inner work that's happening, as well as doing external research of like what in the actual F is going on this earth plane, right? Like people are asking those questions. It's like 4D is like you're really asking a lot of the questions. Like to me, it's like again, 3D, you're not asking anything. You're following the masses. You're just going through your day to day. And again, there's no judgment. It's just that's the energy of that 3D mindset, that matrix. It's like you're literally just going through your every day to day life, very programmed, like most of us have been in this life, myself included. Then 4D, you start questioning everything because you're starting to feel energy more because you're feeling into higher energy. You're feeling into higher vibration. So you're starting to feel things more, i.e., now you're asking more questions, right? And then it's in the 5D that like those questions, they're gone. Like it's like you know who you are in 5D. You are sovereign. You know that you've always had choice. And you nailed it. You said something about you said the word choice or choosing. It's literally like to me as you ascend through these different matrices, you start doing things based on conscious choice. We've always been given choices, right? We've always had free will, divine, like we've always been here with choice. But if you're asleep to that, then you're actually not making your own choices. You're literally just following the masses, following what you're told to do, following what we're conditioned to believe in. And so as you kind of tap into these other consciousnesses, other matrices, webs, you start to recognize like, oh my God, I am the creator of my reality. So now I'm going to choose, like Sam was saying. It's like we choose not to get all entangled in the web of politics because it's not going to serve us, right? It's not serving anyone for us to get all wrapped up in that because we see it for what it is. So I think there's a
Mhm.
misconception too that as we shift into these maybe higher states of consciousness, that then we don't see that other stuff. Oh no,
Oh no, we see
quite
it
the
more.
opposite. It's because we do see it that we recognize we have to choose these higher realities for ourselves and the greater good, to be honest. And I know I have felt very misunderstood for a few years now that because I'm choosing maybe higher vibrations to live in or to empower me or to focus on, that I'm blind to the other things. And it's like, no, it's because I'm not blind to the other things that I'm choosing this. Now I'm making the choice to feed the things that are feeding me instead of draining me.
Yes. And yesterday, 2 days ago, um, this is a perfect example. Because I wasn't expecting to talk about this today, but I think it was 2 days ago. Time's an illusion. But I was sitting outside and I was doing something, and my dad was sitting there, and he goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just doing stuff for the business, whatever." And he goes, "Oh, is it like something with the fake news?" And I'm like, "Why? Why is this even coming in?" And then I see him because Kevin's sitting next to me on the step, and I see him like he was doing it to get like a erection out of me.
Arise.
Yeah. Because then he
Yeah.
looked at Kevin, and Kevin like didn't pay him any attention because Kevin was like, I'm not opening that can of worms. Or also he's
I'm not
like,
playing in that matrix. Good
yeah,
thinking, Kevin.
yeah. But I was just like, in my head, I'm like, why did he do that? And it's like, oh, right then I just took my power back and didn't give him any power because I knew what he was doing, right? But I chose to not let it affect me. And it was so weird because it was just like it brushed by me, but I was still aware of it. I'm like, what? That's not has nothing to do with whatever I'm doing. Like, what is that reality, right? But that's what's consuming his reality, right? And so it doesn't make me naive to know that maybe a lot of the news out there is fake, depending on whatever you watch. I don't watch that shit anymore, right? But it's like I choose to see what I want to see because it'll help me heal, which then helps others heal, versus feed the agenda of anger and fear, because all that's doing is adding that energy to that, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
all it's doing. And I tell that to a lot of my clients. I'm like, yes, you're angry at the system. Yes, you're angry at this. And it's like, I'm like, what does peace feel like to you? What is it? What is that to you? And they're like, well, for these people to stop doing that, stop doing that. I'm like, you're still looking out here. What the reason why this is getting loud out here is because you keep ignoring what's happening in here, right? So let's debunk that. Let's go into that because that's what needs to be shown love because you're feeding off people's anger, which is feeding off you're making you more angry inside because your soul's not about that life anymore, right? Like it's like, no, come on,
Right.
spider.
Right.
Build our next
Like
web, right? Like
zip up,
let's
be
go
able to see it without being
in
in
it.
it.
Yeah. It's just fascinating because we like you nailed it because we're not naive. We're
Oh
not
God, no.
neglecting it. We're not arrogant. It's like I am so aware of it that I am choosing the part of it that brings the love to it and their forgiveness because there's so many people that can't see that. So the
Right.
more I embody it, it'll vibrate out. And I'm trusting.
Exactly.
I'm
And
trusting.
that I feel like that's the hardest sort of awareness or acceptance to come to as individuals because I've not just speaking my own experience, a whole shitload of people that I've observed as I've been waking up these last 5 years, right? Like I also observe everybody else, like how are they going through it, right? Because I use everybody as my mirrors. But I feel like that's one of the biggest struggles, I guess we'll say, when you're going from that 3, 4, and 5 and sort of like bouncing back and forth all the time. It's like, no, I have such an insane awareness of all of that corruption, all of the horrible crimes to humanity. Like I mean, Sam and I both know like spirit hasn't made us by any means ignorant to any of that.
No.
We've been shown some stuff and not just shown it, but like literally brought there energetically that you feel like you're there. I don't know how else to explain it other than like you literally feel like you're in the experience when you're being shown these things from that sort of psychic. So yeah, I'm pretty freaking aware of all of the darkness, but I also know that everybody preaches that the answer is love. So how do we shift from that to that? How does like how does that happen, right? And I feel like that's where people get stuck. It's like we know what the answer is, but we have no idea how to get there because we're still so consumed by the darkness, right? And that's why Sam and I are such big proponents on constant inner work. Constant in all inner work is it's self-awareness. That's literally all it is. Like it's literally how aware can you be of self to continuously keep breaking those programs and patterns and conditions that were never self to begin with. They were these illusions, the false identities. So that's how you get from the shadow to light, in my perspective. That's how you get from the fear to the love, is that you literally have to be able to see and feel it all, to shed it, like to alchemize it, as we talk about all the time. But that's the hardest. That's sort of the hardest thing to accept, is that a lot of us know that the work is internal. Most of us, so many people, I hear it everywhere. It's like it's become like another I don't want to say, but it's like people know the work is internal, but yet still very focused on external, like events, external, just experiences in your personal life, where it's just like always seems to be able to suck us back into that energy. And that was a perfect example you used with your dad, because I think a lot of us have situations like that where we're so aware of all of it, right? But now, because of that awareness, we are choosing to be happier. We are choosing to be healthier. But let me tell you, that triggers the shit out of a lot of people, because misery does love company. And
Mhm.
whether it's conscious or unconscious, we as humans, we do that. I know that for myself. I know there's some days where it's like it's pretty unconscious, but there's a level of conscious that I know I'm like kind of doing it, where it's like I'm in a fucking miserable mood and it's like leaking out of me. And I know that like somebody could be telling me there's a unicorn in my living room shitting out a pot of gold with a rainbow. And I'd be like, I'd, I just wouldn't buy it. Right. So misery does love company. It really does. It's
Mhm.
just an energy in us. It's not like we're intending to do that as humans. It's just like, ugh. So when you're in a high vibration in a world that's pretty dark, it can be hard. But I feel like that is our service. Like that is the service to the earth plane. Can we
Agreed.
hold all those realities, see all those realities, but still hold a higher vibration in our body and a higher perspective in our reality? Like that, and that's tough.
Yeah, because the matrix is literally just the energy, as we started off, the interweb of consciousness. And
That's it. That's it.
consciousness is all of our thoughts, all of our beliefs. It is the Akash. Let's just put it out there. It is
Let's do
all
it.
of everything we feel and experience. It's in our consciousness. We just choose what we want to experience and what we want to remember and what we don't. And it's just interesting. How do I say this? Like, when we can get real with how we feel, like it's like, I'm really angry at this person. And then when you go in, you're like, why am I angry? Well, I really just want this person to love me and accept me. That's actually why I'm angry. That is when you get real with yourself and you can evolve and shift out of this lower consciousness because you're acknowledging that you're triggered or you're feeling a certain way. And then you can shift the story. It's like, whew, I'm really just angry. Like for people that are angry at the systems, right? Like I was really angry at the healthcare system. I still am, but like I'm learning my role in it and how I can shift my anger into actually somehow building a new type of healthcare, or, bringing love into it because I have that awareness of all of the fucked up corruption, all of the stuff in it, right?
Right.
So
Right.
rather than continue being like, F the system, it's like, hold on. Okay, I'm going to use that and I'm going to take this anger and I'm going to like build something and create something because that will help more people rather than sitting in the suffering. And
Correct.
the reason why I was so angry at the system is because I felt like I was being tossed aside. I felt like people were being disrespected. I felt like it was all this I feel, I feel, I feel. So when I
Because how
got
it affected you personally.
right. So when I got honest with that and I was like, whoa, the system doesn't even know who I am. They don't freaking know me. I have to know me. So that's my journey now, right? Like, and that's when it's like, whew, spider
Yep.
coming up, right?
Right. It's yes, it's so true because I think it is important to mention that just because we have this anger, right? There's nothing wrong with us. It's normal. Like I'm not saying now suppress your anger. That's not how you're going to get to a
Right.
higher. You won't. You won't get to a higher consciousness doing it that way. You have to acknowledge the anger, but then, as Sam's saying, you go deeper with that anger. It's why am I so angry about this? Like, where is that coming from? Because it always ends up coming back to an issue with self or how self navigated something. It's always a judgment of self. It always is. It's never not that.
Mhm.
That's why I say the external world is literally a mirror. There's always something about self that we haven't looked at, felt, accepted, acknowledged. And so I think it's important to say, like, there's nothing wrong with you if you have this anger. Like, I get it. I do too. Sam and I are both working through our anger at the system. My anger at the healthcare system more or less had to do with how it did not help me get healthy, right? It was literally disempowering me. And then I watched it do the same thing to all my patients. So then my anger really started to come in. And then when I knew the agendas behind all of it, that's where the anger really got intense. And I've had to sit with that anger many times. And I've come a very long way because just like Sam, I've looked at now, well, what's the silver lining of me being part of that system? I actually had to be part of that system to actually wake up. The irony of
Exactly.
it. So it's like I had to be part of that. I had to have that what my ego would maybe label as a negative experience. I had to endure that to literally have the awareness I have now. So that's how for me I'm able to shift through it. That's how my perspective starts to shift, and I'm not lying to myself that I don't feel certain things. Like I'm allowing whatever emotion to come up about it to come up, and then it passes through. Because the more I just allow myself to be real, like, yeah, fuck this. Like there's some days where I'm like, yeah, fuck the system. Where I where I would say to myself, I'm in a cynical kind of mindset, I know when I go there because I can feel it in me. Like, because it's like it literally leaks into everything, right? It's like, again, one little thing, and then you're looking at your whole external world, like everything sucks, right? That's again, that's how that misery just kind of like pulls you in, and how you can let it, you can allow it to really leak into everything. So I'm very aware of when I have days or hours where all of a sudden those thoughts are coming in, and then the anger starts coming in, and it's like, yeah, it is all a fucking lie, and it's all, and it's like, but it's like, yeah, but you needed to go through that to have the gifts that you have now. So is it really that bad? And I mean, let's be real, your soul knew what it was coming into.
I don't know how many
So
people I've told that to in the last couple of days. Like
really,
you're aware that you chose this, right? You're aware. And they're like, yeah, that's the messed up part. I'm like, but it's also the beautiful part because
it is.
you can take your power back because
Right.
you're like, all right, if I decided to have this mom, dad, this situation, this job, this shitty relationship, decided to break my leg at this age, break my nose here, whatever, right? Why? And once you get to the root of that, you're like, now you can use that and be like, okay, almost like you're a little spy in your own future game of like,
Yes.
so if I was to do this, what would that look like? Oh, yeah, I don't want to do that. Hold on. Oh, I'll do this. Like you realize you do create your reality because you chose to come here during this time to learn certain things. And that when you do that, it's like, wow. So and you get a whole new understanding of like, I literally cannot change that person, their behavior, how they receive me. I can't because I put them in my life to learn something. So, what am I supposed to learn here?
Exactly.
Interesting.
Exactly. It's always like, what am I learning here?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, huh. That was this. That was, I won't do that next time I reincarnate. All right. Let's see.
Like, yeah, I know it's an experience. It's gonna teach me a lesson. I see that. Okay.
Yep, that's how I look at everything. Like, what can I learn here? What can this
Right.
teach me? Because then I don't hold it and it doesn't make me suffer anymore.
Right. That it's funny you use that. It shouldn't be a surprise to me because I use that kind of that same tool without knowing that that's really what I'm in, like what I'm trying to do. It's just like that's just become my whole. I'm like, well, I know everything's a lesson. I know everything's experience. So what is this experience actually teaching me? Because like you said, it makes you less emotionally attached to it. Doesn't mean you don't have emotions that come up, right? Again, it's all about feeling the emotions that come up, but it just shifts like your attachment to it. That's what it is. It shifts your
Correct.
attachment to what's happening.
Correct.
Yeah.
Unattached,
Wild.
deeply connected in the web of the matrix.
Right. So no
So
matter what matrix you perceive yourself to be floating in, all the power to you because I'm floating amongst many of them. But yeah, I'm glad Sam hit record because again, this wasn't we're gonna record our next podcast today, but I don't think that's happening. So in the meantime, you can watch this little tidbit on our perspective and little download of Matrix, even just the word Matrix and what is the Matrix. And again, there's all these sort of teachings out there about escaping the Matrix and breaking free of the Matrix. And it's like, do people not realize that every dimension has its own matrix? Like I've literally been thinking that in my head for like 2 years. I'm like, people don't get that there's a matrix everywhere you go.
yeah,
It's literally just the energy web that's holding that vibration. Yeah, it's
I
wild.
just want to share something real quick. So I looked up the
Right ahead.
matrix, right? And it was like five life lessons you never knew from the matrix. I was like, oh, curious. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. But the first one, the surface truth. And this is the movie Matrix. Neo is the one destined to free mankind. The deeper truth, the one is another measure of control by the machines. Another surface truth. The path interweb. The path to victory is through force. That's the surface truth. Right? That's that anger, right? The force, destruction. Put fear into you, right? The hands of God put fear into you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that just came from, but dropped in. Thanks, God. So, in the deeper truth, the path to victory is actually through surrender. And I was like, huh, because surrender is when you stop resisting everything and you just see it as is. And you're like, oh, oh, okay. Like I am that too. Oh,
Yeah.
how would I handle that if I know I'm that? Oh, I would just
Yep.
ignore me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ignore me because I'm in that mood. So that president's in that mood, right? If you want to bring it into politics, it's like, I'm going to ignore that because I know how I can be if I'm, you know what I mean? Like it's literally you putting your face on that person. That's surrender.
Right.
Just so
And
funny.
empathy.
And empathy. Yeah. And then another one, it's like,
Wow.
surface truth. People don't understand me. Deeper truth. I care for people, but I don't know how to show it because I don't know how to show up for myself. Yeah.
Dude, that's powerful because everyone in my reality that comes to me feels misunderstood. But guess what? So don't I.
Let's talk about it. Let's mingle, baby. Let's mingle on our not feeling understood. Tell me all the ways.
Legit.
I'll show you mine. You show me yours.
Because I do too.
Today in show and tell.
You show me your fears and I'll show you mine.
You tell me your weirdest habits and I'll tell you mine.
Legit.
Icebreaker.
Dude, I love that little thing you found, how there's surface level and then the deeper truth.
Yeah.
Because that's really that whole movie is very, it's metaphorical, is what that movie is, but it's also still very 3D. And that's what's funny about it. But that's why they made it that way. Part of the agenda.
You like this one. Once we see the truths, acknowledge our own limitations, we have the ability to overcome them. If I can see that my fear of rejection is keeping me from reaching out to people, then I can also make the choice to reach out and seek the help and connection that I need. That's why a lot of us don't ask for help because we do feel like we'll be rejected. And we both learned, it's okay to ask for help.
Amen.
It's totally okay.
It's actually super empowering.
Yeah. Because how else can you know that people also feel stuck and lost and crazy if you don't reach out and be like, yo, I feel crazy today. Oh my God, me too.
It's like it's like that the child in school it's afraid to ask a question because we're afraid we'll look dumb, but yet meanwhile 25 other people in that class don't have the kahunas to ask the question you want to ask. They all feel the same way too. So it's like if I ask, I'm gonna be perceived as dumb or I don't know anything. It's like, wow, we're so afraid to ask.
Yep. So we all just sit around and act like we're all smart in a system that messes us up. So
the 3D matrix.
yes, in the lowers. Yes. So people, we love you. And here's just a little matrix love, I guess, for everybody.
Here you go. Here's what the word matrix means to us. And there's no real breaking free. It's just you get to begin to choose what matrix you want to play in, really. It's basically what it comes down to. Like, what little web of connections, energy connections, am I going to play in this now moment? And it will vary. And you will start to see how multidimensional you are.
Yeah. And it's about returning to the main creator, like the womb of creation. That is the main matrix where you came from. Why did you come here? What is your purpose?
I have to say this before we end, just because it's being dropped back into my awareness when you said creator. So it's like maybe a week or two ago, I got like this download when I was sitting outside about like different states of consciousness, awareness, all of that. And it was like I was brought back to the shamanic journey I did where I merged with the creator. And Sam knows what I mean when I say that. When we did our shamanic apprenticeship, we did a meditation journey where we went and like met the creator and asked to be shown like how creation was created, basically. And very oddly enough, Sam and I had very similar, even though we were not in the class together. Like I took it months after she took it. And then when we compared journeys, it was like, whoa, we had a very similar kind of experience.
Mm.
And I was like outside and I forget, like I was talking about consciousness and awareness and all this stuff. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm getting like a download. And it was like I was being shown how, because I was talking about self-awareness. Like I feel like this whole journey is literally about self-awareness. But when you can recognize that everything outside of you is also self, that's where you can either use it to empower you as a mirror and teach and learn from it, like we're talking about, or it can just really trigger you and you can point the finger and not see yourself in all of these other selves, right? So what I was like shown, and I feel like I had this knowing, but it was like the way I was shown it, it was so source, God, creator, whatever you want to call that oneness that literally all of us are from, is fully self-aware. It looks down and knows that it chose to fragment out and experience all of these different realities, meaning being humans, being Pleiadians, Arcturians, dogs, to a tree, to like everything that exists in all of the physical universes and realities, right? So source is looking down and knows that it knows that we are all it, right? We get in these lower dimensions and we forget that we're source. It's just, it was like, and it was like source was like laughing the way it was showing it to me. It was like I know that that's me, but they don't know they're me. And I was like, wow, dude, that's wild. So source is just the energy that's fully self-actualized. They literally showed me that the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs that a lot of us learn about in psychology and stuff. And the top of the pyramid is literally self-actualization. That's what it is.
Mhm.
And it's like I was remembering it because I've been taught that in many different nursing school, high school, I think, like in psychology. Like I know that that was a pyramid. I was taught a lot, but I always remember people teaching it where, yeah, nobody ever reaches full self-actualization. And I'm like, why not? Like I always remember thinking that that was weird that people would say that, but it's like, oh my God, that is source energy. Source is fully self-actualized. It knows that it chose to fragment out and have all of these wild experiences. But then we, these smaller aspects of the wild experiences, forget that we're source. Isn't that wild?
It is
And
wild.
that's why the self-awareness journey is literally what brings you back to source, because you start to become aware that, oh my God, there's that oneness, right? You hear everybody talk about oneness. People don't, you can't understand it. I'm sorry. You can't understand it until you've experienced the feeling of oneness. You can have an understanding of the concept, but it's totally different when you experience that connection of oneness, like Sam did with a fly. Like, it's just coming back into my reality because I'm
That was
remembering that.
episode
Listen to
17
our
of the
podcast.
podcast.
That's
Yeah.
in the podcast of our last episode, 17.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect example of like, because again, whether things on this earth plane are man-made, and I feel like this is important to, like, this is coming in. Didn't think I was going to go there. But AI, right? Where AI is taking over. There's all this AI. There's a lot of fear around AI, all this stuff, right? And literally, yes, I get that there's clones on this earth plane. There's probably clones of me. Like I've gotten to levels of acceptance of these things because I know that it's totally possible. Like I know. But I also know that everything that is man-made here still has an aspect of source in it. It can't not. If we're all from source, then it can't not have source in it. That doesn't even make sense. I'm not saying that, and this is where discernment I think is very important when we're intermingled, because AI is being used to manipulate a lot of people. I mean, they're able to copy our voice basically and make phone calls to people. Like it's legit. Like this is legitimately happening. And
Mhm.
that's where your discernment. But where do you get discernment? Through self-awareness.
Yep.
That's how you learn how to discern, through your own self-awareness. Literally. And so I kept getting these like downloads or not downloads, but just sort of like perspectives of that. Yeah, everybody down there is so afraid of all of these things that are being used in a manipulative fashion and with not a high agenda, we'll say, for humanity. And I'm not saying, I'm 1,000% telling you that that is happening. I'm not denying any of that. But from the higher perspective, source is looking down and it's like, yeah, that's still part of me. It's created by something that is me. It's not me.
Exactly.
Wild.
It is. And I wasn't gonna go there, but it came in a couple minutes ago. But I think that's also why you and I don't believe in like the devil.
I do too.
Um, I in like entities. Like, yeah, I believe that I actually don't even know what I believe when it comes to like extraterrestrial, like ETs that have invaded our system. Like, did they
I
have a
know.
different God? I don't care. That's I don't think I'm supposed to focus on that. So in my reality,
Because that's literally 340.
yeah, it's like
It
I
is. I know.
if we're one, we're one. Like,
That's what I
whatever.
mean.
Yeah,
And that's literally what Source is saying. It's like you guys are still getting caught up in that. This
right.
the illusion of separation. That's how this download came in. It came through a conversation about like basically this illusion of separation.
Correct. And that's why, like, with so the devil, because I've been having more and more people come to me, you know, who spirit tells me, and this might trigger people, but I mean, they're probably already triggered with this conversation,
Just a little.
that they're like a fallen angel. To me, what that means is that they're here to show love and they have to go through a lot of stuff to quote unquote get their wings back, as in to just feel love for themselves. Like that's
I
what
know.
I've been shown, right? Like that's
Yes.
what it is. Like I consider myself an angelic being because I know my path here. And I choose that angels have this energy of love. Like that's what I choose in my reality. You don't have to
Right.
agree with me, right? But it's like, so
Right.
I also don't believe that there's a force like a devil that is so strong that can overtake us. And then if we don't do these things, we go to hell. Like, dude, this
Correct.
3D is hell. 3D is hell. Like, come on. And that's why we're inundated with fear. So, like, in order to go to heaven, we have to become aware of self. Like
Yep.
that's right. And that's why with like Lucifer and with Jesus, if they both come from quote unquote God, Lucifer just decided to, I'm going to change some shit up because I don't really want to follow that way. So then he became over time the devil because he was curious about life. He was curious about incarnation. He still came from the same source. So then religion became about to control people. It's like
Yep.
when you have that reality, when you understand that, it's like you don't fear death in a sense. You don't fear certain things because you're like, wait, if we all come from the same consciousness or same source, right? Like higher consciousness, whatever. There is nothing evil that can actually take hold of me except my own fears, except my own dis-ease, which is when you are so disconnected from the no, actually, because you're so connected to the illusion that you're
Yes.
disconnected, right?
Yes. Yes. Nailed it.
Yeah,
Because we're never disconnected from source.
correct.
That's the whole thing. That's literally what source is laughing about. It's like they all forgot they're me. Like they literally forgot they're me, but I know I'm them. Like that's like I say he because see, there's that
Yeah,
religious programming in me. It's not a he, it's an energy. Um, it almost feels like I also realize like I have a hard time calling it because it's
me too.
like degrading, but it's like it's that's what it is. It's an energy. It's a big old ball of energy, light. So again, see how easily that religious programming can just kind of come right back up. But I love what you said because as you were talking, literally religion taught us to fear fear, and it taught us to fear that luciferian part of ourself because you're right.
Correct.
I've even read stuff where people are starting to become aware of this, I think, but they're still using Jesus and Lucifer as a of a way to metaphorically explain it, but that basically Jesus and Lucifer are the same being.
Mhm.
Like you all want to talk about twin
Polarity.
flames.
Yeah.
Twin flames.
Mhm.
It's the same being. How could it
Mhm.
not be, like we said, if it came from the same source? One chose to descend into a lower vibration. One chose to remain ascended in a lower vibration field, but kept their body and their aura at a higher energy, a higher vibration, while walking a dimension that is of a lower caliber. The other one chose to create that lower caliber dimension to learn in. And I do believe that fear teaches us so much. Like
Oh
there's
yeah.
but it has a role, like you were saying, polarity, duality. That's why we come here. If we didn't want to, learn, we could just keep all of ourselves up there, right? But we choose to then fragment, just like the one main source fragmented. Then our soul is like, okay, now I'm going to fragment because this is kind of cool. It doesn't feel really cool to this human right now. But the soul's like, yeah, I'm going to go do all these different things simultaneously because
Mhm.
time and space is an illusion.
That's the other thing. So there are
Oh,
multiple
Lord.
matrices and dimensions. We're not just on one.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That's literally what it means to be multidimensional.
yeah. So on like the hierarchy of needs, right? Like I don't remember all of them, but like primal, whatever. If you look at that as this is all coming in, this is fascinating because I've never
Isn't
looked at
it?
it this way, but it's like I have, but not, right?
But not.
But not, but I have. But you know what I mean? So, anyways, but it's like, so you, like you said, the top, right? Which I always see as this beautiful purple. Like to me, that's source to me, like just this
Yes.
lilac
Yeah,
purple,
literally,
whatever.
that's what I was seeing, the purple triangle. Yeah,
Oh,
the
there we
top.
go. Okay.
Self
Yeah.
actualization.
Yeah. And then the bottom, let's say it's like the lower dimension or
Red.
different realities, right? Other Earths. Like there's not just this universe, guys. Like
Oh, dear
there's
God, no.
many,
There's not just this earth either. Like,
yeah, there's
we'll get into
many.
that another time. But
Yeah. So there's many, but we can choose where we fragment into, right? To learn what we need to learn, to become back into that awareness. And I'll just say real briefly is that when you decide to align with that awareness, align with, let's say, that angelic energy, knowing that everything is a mirror of itself, right? And you learn like, oh, I am my own medicine. What happens is, so you're on one dimension, you're doing this, right? It triggers, it vibrates out because energy is not created nor destroyed. It just keeps on going. What happens
flowing.
is that it wakes up your lower consciousnesses on other planes to also like, whoa, okay, here she is. She's up here. Oh, right. Like the little puppet, right? Like the little spider web. So it's like, oh, so it wakes you up on these other ones. So in this reality, you can also ascend and grow. Like that's how it all works. And so when you're not feeling good on this earth plane, when you wake up in this reality and you're like, oh, if you just like, rah, 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 right, that's okay too. But if you are like, oh, I have a stomach ache, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. Rather than connecting, be like, okay, why do I have a stomach ache or kind of what did I eat? Just kind of going back, right? A lot of times it's energy from you on other dimensions as well, trying to give signals like, hey, needs help down there. That that buddy down there over there, 3D 30 Earth over there, still doesn't realize she's allergic to gluten. So can you just send her a little love and like a smack in the head? And so she can ascend up and start eating better. Like that's how it works.
It
Like
legit. It is. It is. Such a perfect way you describe. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah. Happens exactly like that for me, too.
Mhm. Yep. And to this morning, I woke up very disgruntled and angry because I didn't sleep well at all. I was literally traveling the entire time. I could not shut it off. I was even up walking around, like still. I'm like, I couldn't shut down. It was so aggravating. And then I'm like, it's okay. I'm not going to cancel my day. I'm going to sit outside. I'm going to drink my tea, my water. I'm just going to stay in my lane. And then I'm breathing. I'm like, oh, that's right. I was traveling to lower dimensional me's in a sense. And I was just like giving them pep talk. So now I need to give myself pep talk. Like, got this. You're traveling for a reason. You did this. This was part of your plan. And I'm like, all right, well, I choose not to be mad at myself or the bed or whoever kept me up all night, right? Like, because it wasn't anybody. It was my source, whatever, that had me awake because
Yep.
I had to
Yep.
be for whatever I was doing. And then all of a sudden, once I realized that, like the anger went away. I was still tired, but the anger went away. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, I just like hugged all little me's everywhere who probably were just having a rager like all night doing drugs or something. Like,
Well,
who knows?
literally, that's as you're talking, I'm like, it's because I heard it's because her lower dimensional selves were waking up.
Oh,
So then when you actually, your body physically woke up here, you felt their energies. And we know what it feels like to start waking up.
oh yeah.
And that's literally what I was seeing is like all these other yous in 3D dimensions, we'll say, starting to wake up. And so then you physically woke up like irritated, like, what the fuck? Like, because the other yous are like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So me up here, realize what do I need? I know how to work with this. Let me hug all of these, even though I can't see them right now. And then in between my clients, let me go for a walk on the beach because that will reset me. And it did
Yep.
because I chose my reality. I chose my matrix today. So,
Win-win.
bam.
Boom.
Yep.
So yes, that's our video for today. Very unscripted, but that's how we like to roll. We had no idea we were going to be doing this today, but apparently
Keep on
Source
rolling,
did.
rolling, rolling. Yeah. We went from doing our podcast, then deciding coaching to me hitting record. So,
Just hit record. Okay, we're doing this.
so roll with it,
Love it.
guys. Create your own reality. Hit play whenever you want. Hit pause whenever you want. Do whatever.
Yep. And just choose your matrix wisely. That's all. It's just choose your energy web of connections. Start like actually looking at it like that because that's what a matrix is. So start looking at it. It's this energy web of connections. Which one do you want to be mingling in? That's really what it comes down to.
Love
We
you.
love ya. See you on the other side.
See